Hi everyone, I'm Sandy, and today I am doing my 1001 book countdown, but it is for the Reading Euro Challenge 2021. I'm going to call it part 1. So let's jump right in. If you're not familiar with Reading Europe Challenge 2021, this is something that is being hosted by Mark over at Book Time with Elvis, and it's based off of the European Soccer Championships, I think they're championships, competition that is going on right now. And I'm actually filming this on Friday, and my first match isn't until Saturday. But it's based off of the European Soccer Championships that are going on right now. And what Mark had done is he had asked if people wanted to participate, and anyone who wanted to participate was randomly drawn for a country. And if you want to see how excited I was about this, I'll pop in a couple videos right now of both me watching the first part of it and then also me getting my country, because it's really silly. Hope you like it.
Alrighty, so this right here is Book Time with Elvis's countdown for the drawing. And is it weird that I'm just so excited about this one? Let's see what country I get. I got Switzerland.
So I have Switzerland, and for my first match with Switzerland is actually on Saturday, starting at 6 a.m. in the time zone that I'm in, and they are playing Wales. And so in typical me fashion, I looked in my 1001 book list and found 2 books, and of course, yeah, I've already read both of them, even though they haven't played the match yet. So I thought, since I'm recording this in advance, what I would do is, let's see if my love of the book, which one I liked better, matches who wins in the tournament today, or on Saturday. So for that, I am going to go ahead and put up my numbers, which are 992 and 30, which is my 2021 number, and we'll jump right into the reviews of the book. So for my Swiss book, the book that I had picked is called On Love by Alain de Botton, and I do not have a physical copy. I got it as an ebook, and this was a really interesting book. I didn't know anything about it when I started reading it. It also was not very long, so which is why I was able to read these 2 books this week. The On Love is basically a commentary on love, and it's told through the perspective of a relationship all the way from the point that they meet all the way to their subsequent end of the relationship, and it goes through some stereotypical cliche-y type of things, but it is very interesting to read. There's a lot of philosophers in it, references to philosophy in it, which I thought was really good. I don't have any of those to call out right now, but the one thing, there were some really fun quotes. I have my iPad here, right here, with what I had highlighted for the book. And so one of the ones that I thought was really interesting is this: the telephone becomes an instrument of torture in the demonic hands of a beloved who doesn't call. And this is one that, for me, I really related to, having been sitting on the receiving end of waiting for a phone call, and it is, yeah, definite torture. I thought it was a very simple one. One of the other ones is, perhaps the easiest people to fall in love with are those with whom we know nothing, which you don't see any of their flaws then. So the person on the street that just maybe looks a certain way, you fall in love with them. I did think that that was one that was a really interesting statement. And then one of the ones that I can do is like, one can talk problems into existence. And yeah, I could definitely do that. I can talk myself into that this is a problem and it's really not. And then the last one is, once a partner has begun to lose interest, there's apparently little the other can do to arrest the process. And that is kind of the theme just throughout this book. I did like it being told through the relationship because it didn't feel so necessarily preachy about love. It felt like it was telling a story between these 2 characters. Interestingly enough, you never learn the man's name. You only learn the woman's name because the man is the narrator. I don't remember ever seeing that in here. It could be that I missed it though, because I do occasionally miss things. But I did really like it, and it was a very fast read. I read it over for just, I believe, a few days. And it was one that I was very surprised by. I had never heard of this author before. So with this one, I actually rated it 4 stars. So the Swiss team has 4 stars right now. We'll see how the Welsh team does in a minute. But with that, we will go from 992 to 991. And unfortunately, it's not on my 2021 list, so that number is going to have to stay at 30. Okay. So after that, when I found out, when I looked at the schedule, and like I said, found out that Wales was playing Switzerland, I went and made sure I had the book that I would want to read in case Switzerland lost to Wales. And because if Swiss lost to Wales, I'd have to read a book by a Welsh author or set in Wales. And for that, I actually picked up Monica by Saunders Lewis. It's a Welsh-born author. And what was really interesting about this particular book, and yes, I have read this one as well, even though they haven't played yet, but this one is also only about 90 pages long. So if it's about 90 pages long, it feels so incredibly doable in one sitting, which is pretty much what I did with this one. But so Monica is, this book one, it was, if you look at the back of it, it was fiercely attacked by Welsh speaking critics for its portrayal of sexual obsession and manipulation. Okay, interesting. And then it goes on and says, and for the first time, sex, prostitutes, and venereal diseases were given prominence in a Welsh novel. So people were very, very upset, apparently, about this book when it first came out. And so I thought that was one of the things that made me go, okay, now I'm really actually interested in reading this and to see what in the world why were people so upset? And what's interesting is by today's standards, this is not explicit. This is not really out there as a concept. Monica, is portrayed as a very horrible human being. It's very, very difficult to like her. She does a number of really, really bad things. She does something to her sister, her husband. She is a miserable human being. And the author does a really, really good job of portraying that in this book. But one of the comments that she has is, I detest the baby and I haven't even seen it. Like, oh, wow. Okay. So, right. And that was on page 8. So right away, you just really start to not like her very much. And then another thing is she and her husband had the bitter pleasure of having to eat her handiwork because no one had turned up at the party that they were having at her house. And her piece was, why was she such a failure and such a pariah? But as you continue to go on, kind of what she does to her husband, which is, she was enjoying the sensation of seeing his unhappiness. And then another one, her only pleasure was in hurting him, taking her pain out on him. So continual theme of just her being really, really horrible. And she does use sex as a manipulative tool. Her husband ultimately betrays her, I guess, and is... I'm trying really hard not to give a spoiler, but her husband does something bad and she tries to track him down and it does not end well. Like the end of the book is kind of a cliffhanger. You don't really know what happened to her. You have a pretty good idea, but you don't know for sure. So very happy that it was a short novel. This is my first Saunders Lewis novel. I have not read anything else by this author. I have to say, I was slightly disappointed because based on the back of the book, I was expecting something much worse from this character. At least how it was portrayed in here. It wasn't as bad as my head was going to make it out to be. I wanted it to be just truly, truly awful. And she was bad, but she wasn't that awful. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. So if you're following along in the match between Switzerland and Wales, this is 3, Switzerland is 4. So does that mean Switzerland is going to win? We'll see. I don't know. Maybe. But with this book, I go from 991 to 990, but it is not on my 2021 list. So that number, unfortunately, still stays at 30. Yeah, I am a bit behind on my 2021 list now. This one, which is the Book of Disquiet, which I had talked about before, I am now about 45% of the way through the book. It's just not a book you can read quickly. You have to take your time with it. And so, yeah, that one I'm still in the process of. I have picked books for the other two Switzerland matches. One is Switzerland and Turkey, and one is Switzerland and Italy. I really hope Switzerland wins because I don't want to have to read those books, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. I may have to pick a different book. Funny story, for the Italy book, I had picked up The Story of the Lost Child by Elena Ferrante. Yeah, it really is important to look at the book before you select it, because if you notice down here, right here, the fourth and final Neapolitan novel. Yeah, I haven't read the first three, so this one, I did get it from the library, thankfully, so I'm going to take it back today, and I do have the first book in the series checked out, but it is definitely a thicker book, so we'll see if I end up with the first one, which is called My Brilliant Friend by her, or if I choose a different one, but that is where I'm at, so hopefully by the time this goes out, we'll actually know who won, but until next time, everyone, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully, if you're following the challenge, or you can go out and check Mark's channel. I will leave him linked down below as well. But so fun being part of that reading challenge so far, because we have a voxer group that is entertaining, is how I would put it. And it is just making me laugh so incredibly much. So, but until next time, everyone, I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful weekend and week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.